It's not that I think corporate doesn't see what we have to do, but I think sometimes they have their own deadlines and they're just so worried about hitting their own deadlines.
If you had to put a percentage on the amount of stuff that comes from corporate, how much of it feels exciting and energizing for you versus this is actually getting in the way of my actual job?
My initial reaction to that wanted to be like 80% throwing garbage, 20% excited.
Right.
But if I actually like pause and sit and think about, I don't actually think many things that come from corporate are trash worthy.
Yeah.
I think it's 80-20 because of timing.
Yeah.
I think if the timing was appropriate for these things, I would change my answer to honestly 80-20 the other way.
Wow. As usual, Matt, I came here thinking that this morning I wanted to ask you some very specific questions about the timing of corporate program or initiative launches in stores. And as I was thinking about all my questions and reviewing some of our previous discussions, it occurred to me that, of course, I need to take several steps way back and ask some bigger picture, more qualifying questions about what are we even talking about when we say a corporate initiative or a corporate launch? Because I think for me in my line of work, that is very often more like a one-off culture comms campaign or fun like sustainability competition or a new training going live or a new platform going live. But I wonder if that means the same thing to you, because I think sometimes when I talk about things landing in stores from corporate, different stuff might cross your mind, like marketing promos or resets and things like layout resets. So big picture first. When I just talk about a corporate launch or a program launch or initiative, what are the things or thing that first comes to mind for you?
What's interesting is, you said something about like, how you wanted to talk about timing.
Mhm.
And when I think of corporate initiatives, the first thing my mind thinks of is, well, they're always timed terribly. That's like the first thing that comes to my mind because there's
Yeah.
something married in the retail manager brain that like a corporate initiative will by default probably be thrown at you randomly.
Mm.
And so immediately my mind goes to like all of the things that like just get thrown at you. And that's everything. That's everything you said and probably more. Like,
Mhm.
is it a merch move? Is it a promo we're throwing at you because, denim sales are down and now we're going to randomly tell you on a Friday morning at 8 a.m. we've changed the price in the register to be 50% off instead of 30% off. And you got to change all the signs right now and actually put the denim all in the front. And then, because like there really needs to be big push because it's the last week of the quarter and like go. So it's like all of those things come to mind. Like timing is just sort of married into it. But I also do think about like the cultural programs or employee surveys and things like that kind of get cascaded into your communication channels in the store.
Yeah, so it's all the things. Like,
It's all the things. I mean, when you say corporate initiatives, I immediately just think of like anything that's going to be in an email with a deadline.
wow, that's very interesting. Do you tier those in terms of importance? So regardless of the deadline or when that is, let's say something is coming that is like a merch move or a sales promo versus a new learning course or a culture, I don't know, posters that have to go up or something like that. How do you categorize those in your brain?
Well, so for me, it's like what affects the customer. And I'm not saying that for like the people, above me who listen to this who are like, oh, good, we're prioritizing the customer. That's not why I'm saying it. I'm saying it just because a customer is going to notice if like you change the price online and it's not reflected in store. So like those things just automatically have to be priority one. But it is gonna help your sales if it's like a marketing promo. Like it is gonna actually help your numbers in the moment. So even if you get angry and you're like, oh, last minute change, they always do this. In the back of your mind, you're like, this is gonna make me more money, get me closer to my bonus, get me closer to my goal. So I'm gonna do it. There's like an incentive to do it. If it's
Yes.
something to do with a learning, a poster, a culture thing, it automatically takes the back burner because that's not really going to change anyone's life in the moment. It's just not.
That's kind of exactly what I wouldn't say what I assumed, because what I hear when I actually get to talk to store managers of our clients, it's it's very like it's very, how is this relevant to me today, this week in my store? And
Hmm.
or if I don't do this, well, I have to have a coaching call about it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. And for like posters in the back room or for learning, that just falls under that like compliance umbrella where
Mhm.
it's like we'll just add like a new calendar tap to let you know the due date of the learning. That just kind of gets like thrown in with everything else.
Do you know who they're coming from? Do you know exactly which department different initiatives are coming from or created by?
Honestly, depends on the company. I think some companies like there to just be like one umbrella, like, daddy corporate who sends out all the memos. And then there's like other companies where it's like the training and learning team has like spent 6 decades working on this 5 module training and is really proud of it. Like, please take it and let us know your feedback. So, like, some companies are more like that. Other companies are like, there's a new module, you must take it. Here's the date, the end.
Yeah. How about more culture related stuff, or even either culture or business strategy type stuff? Does someone sign their name to that? Do you know who's sending those through?
I mean, I guess I would ask, like, what's a culture one? Like, when you say culture, what are you saying?
Yeah, that's a great that's a great question. Complete episode pivot right now. We're doing this now. Um, so for me, I'm thinking a reaction to an employee engagement survey where something specific wasn't scoring well. So maybe about inclusivity,
Hmm.
or maybe it is about sustainability programs, or let's say, I don't want to say conflict resolution because that feels a little bit more specific. Um, Maybe like a purpose communication campaign.
So I feel like all of those usually come from HR in most companies. Like that's
Okay.
who, and oftentimes it is a person signing the email, like
Right.
an HR person you've heard of, whether it be like a director or a head of, um, probably because they want it to feel more like personal.
Mhm. Does it?
No, no, because I think for me, and again, not to go down the weird culture rabbit hole, but a cultural thing coming from someone you don't really know,
Yeah.
even though they're a person, even if they are like a well-known person, a well-loved person in an organization,
Mhm.
it doesn't feel the same, and it doesn't feel like the same level of importance as something that's coming from your direct leader.
Yes.
And so I think HR in those situations wants to be like the hero of that story,
Mhm.
um, and like wants to be known and seen as the driver of that thing, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And I love that for them and their journey. But that's not, because the thing is, like, if we get a marketing promo tomorrow, uh, my boss is probably going to text me, call me, email me, whatever, just ensure, did you put up the signs? How are people responding to the thing? And I'm not saying my direct leader doesn't do that in organizations when it comes to something cultural, but it's not the same. It's kind of like they let HR be the director of that, maybe so it stays on message, maybe so that people don't mess up and say something weird. I don't know. But and again, this could probably be like a whole other episode, but culture things, especially when it comes to like diversity or inclusion or sometimes even sustainability, like it can be personal and it's messy and everyone has a different opinion. And by nature of it, you can't clean those things up in like a succinct box of corporate email, and now we hope it lands in a real, authentic, true way. Well, no, because you're trying to clean it up, and it's really, really messy, and it's really difficult to talk about. You're not going to clean it. There, either don't talk about it or just accept that it's about to. You've opened Pandora's box of like messy, vulnerable conversation where, you know what? Someone might say the wrong thing in some of these conversations. Now, how do we respond to the person who says the thing that's weird or wrong or uncomfortable? Like, what is our path forward with that? Otherwise, just keep the email in your drafts.
So it's both the direction of the cascade, so whether it goes through your DM
Hmm.
or just lands in your inbox from a corporate department leader who you may or may not have ever met or heard of,
Hmm.
but it's also the message that's coming through. It feels very corporate safe.
Yeah.
Let's stay on the culture
Hmm.
example. If that sounds good to you, like if you have, if you feel like this a realistic experience?
Yeah. I don't know what happens in Canada, but in America, we have no shortage of cultural conversations that
Hmm.
people want to have or need to have.
Okay.
And corporate has dipped their toe in here or there.
Yeah. So I know it's obviously an important discussion, and I know it's something that's important to you if it's real and authentic. Let's first knock the timing issue out.
Hmm.
I imagine you're not always in a position to be able to take in this information and have a two-way discussion and make a plan for your store in terms of a culture initiative.
No, yeah, no. Obviously, seasonality is
Okay.
important. Like, and then what else is on the docket, sort of, in terms of, is it inventory season? Is it are we leading up to a busy sales season? Because I think sometimes companies are like, okay, Q4 is coming up. Let's use Q4 as an example. October, November, December. Those aren't everyone's fiscal Q4, but we'll just roll with it. Q4 is coming up. Okay, you know what? September's a really great time to launch this new thing, this new cultural initiative or conversation that we want to have internally. But that's also when maybe in that particular organization, a lot of people are on vacation because they can't take it in Q4. And so now, in order to have this what we're being told is an important conversation, I can't have with everyone because not everyone's here. Then they get back, but now we're getting more inventory because now we're leading into the busier season. And now that thing just sort of gets swept away. And maybe in January we return to it, maybe we don't. Um, but then it just kind of gets lost in the sea of retail change.
Do you have, getting real tactical here, do you have a store calendar? Do you have a district calendar? Do you have a company-wide calendar where you have these things mapped out?
Uh, yes and no. Um, because I think everyone has access to the store calendar, I would say. Like the store knows what's coming up, corporate knows what's coming up. So it's not that I think corporate doesn't see what we have to do. I think that they have their own, and again, this is me making some assumptions here, but I think sometimes they have their own deadlines and they're just so worried about hitting their own deadlines. It almost, I don't want to say doesn't matter what the store is doing, But like, let's say that, again, we're getting really into the hypothetical here, but let's say that cultural initiative they want to launch by August 15th, because way before Q4, but it's not ready, because delays happen, whatever, until September 28th. They're probably just going to launch it. They're like, no, we worked hard on this. We wanted to do it before Q4. We're throwing it at them. So it's like, we don't know what corporate's working on, obviously, because they're just working on it. And then it just kind of gets thrown to us whenever it's ready,
Right.
whether we can take it on at that moment or not, because it's just been determined that this is an important thing. And, sometimes it's wrapped up in that pretty bow of like, we understand that we're delivering this at a time where you're busy, but we really feel like this is so important. Like, you need to squeeze it in. And it's funny because when I was younger and a little bit more reactionary, but also I pushed back a lot when I was a younger manager, a lot more than I do now. Because now I've sort of reached this point, and again, sidetrack, we could have a whole episode about this. I've just sort of reached this point of like, what battles are worth me fighting and what battles am I just not going to fight because I'm not going to change a $10 billion company's mind. But when I was younger, I would push back and be like, okay, so what can I give up? Which other thing would you like me to drop? Or which deadline could I push?
Yeah.
And, sometimes I would have a DM who was great, who would be like, well, what's getting in the way? Can we push that? And sometimes a DM would let me push the deadline, kick the can down the road a little bit and would defend me if someone asked why I hadn't completed a thing. But then there are other people who are like, well, you just gotta fold it in. And then like what we're finding is like some people are doing like a 30-minute powwow with their team in the morning to talk about it. And then you roll into your day and they're saying all these things and you're like, yeah, okay. Because you're also making it seem like that there's no, like there's never any thing that randomly pops up in my day. And I'm not saying that things don't happen in corporate randomly, because I'm sure that they do. But it's like, if you have an office with a door that closes, your day is much more likely to stay focused than mine can, because it doesn't even take something crazy in retail to derail what you plan to do that day. It doesn't, I think on this podcast, we've talked about, and I've given stories of like, toilets overflowing and computers breaking down. There's all these like extreme examples that I've given that really do happen. Someone defecated in a fitting room once. That throws off your whole day. That's crazy. That's a story I love to tell because it's funny and wild. And people who don't work in retail are like, what goes on? But the reality is those are all extreme examples. And I've probably done a disservice to people who don't know retail as well or who work in corporate offices by saying those things, because then you're able to say, well, that's something that doesn't happen very often. So we don't need to plan for that. But you know what does happen often? Random things that throw off your day. And by random, I mean a customer comes in and is chatty Cathy and wants an hour and 15 minutes of the manager's time. Not to complain, by the way, just because they're probably lonely, honestly. They just want a friend and you're helping them with jeans, and you can't toss them off to your employees because that's rude. Like, you're not going to be like, well, Sarah can help you. Like, that person saw you engaged them, now you're in the thing. And now the thing you wanted to do, you lost an hour of your day. It's something you can't control. You don't want to get a bad review because poor old Mary, who's 72, is like lonely and wants a friend. And I'm not going to be the person who makes her feel worse. So now it's like, what's coming off my plate? Because I just wasted an hour and 15. And I would argue I didn't waste an hour and 15 minutes. I just was a human for an hour and 15 minutes. And that probably felt good for me too. But it's like those types of things happen. And your pretty little initiatives, culture or otherwise, I can't hold up the paper and be like, so Mary, it's been great talking with you, but I have to go talk about inclusivity with my team, and you're getting in the way of that. So just find your size 8, and if you could just get out of my face. Like,
Yeah. Man, it's so interesting. It's just worth noting you said something in there that the underlying theme is, you have to be out doing things to help the customer, to help the business, to serve the customer in your community, and that brings you joy, right? Like that kind of human interaction. If you're in retail, hopefully you enjoy something like that. What I'm hearing that wasn't said outwardly is that maybe these corporate initiatives don't bring you the same amount of excitement. You don't maybe believe that they are not just important to the business, but help you lead or help your team feel more motivated. So, I mean, if you had to put a percentage or a range on the amount of stuff that comes from corporate, how much of it feels kind of exciting and energizing for you versus this is actually getting in the way of my actual job?
Well, it's funny that we're talking about timing,
Mhm.
because here's where the nuance happens a lot. Because my initial reaction to that wanted to be like 80% throwing garbage, 20% excited.
Right.
But if I actually like pause and sit and think about, I don't actually think many things that come from corporate are trash worthy.
Yeah.
I think it's 80-20 because of timing.
Yeah.
I think if the timing was appropriate for these things, or I was given more time for those things, I would change my answer to honestly 80-20 the other way.
Wow.
Because as I'm thinking about it in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't know that I've ever. There are a couple times where I've obviously gotten communication at different companies where I'm like, this is a waste of my time.
Mhm.
But I would say a good amount of time, it's like, if I really think about it, I'm like, no, this makes sense, but why now?
Mm.
Why in this rushed manner? Because the thing is like, if a company really wants to do something well, they'll give you enough time. Because, and the best example for most companies, honestly, is the employee engagement survey. In all the companies that I have worked where we have one, you are told oftentimes 8 weeks before the survey even is live. The survey is coming. The survey is coming. Like, make sure, well, because also I think we're doing a little bit like pre-survey, like make sure you're extra lovey-dovey. Like make sure your team is happy before the survey launches. And then as you get closer, it's like make sure that, the survey is going to launch from, August 2nd through the 22nd. You have 20 days to complete. Make sure that like you're able to hit all your employees in that time frame and get them, some companies allow you to schedule an extra 15, 30 minutes, et cetera, to make sure that they can take it off the floor and have enough time to answer the questions. So you're prepped 8 weeks in advance to be like, hey, it's coming. Then you're prepped probably a week or two before you were to make those schedules. Remember, this is the thing. Oh, and here's the payroll budget for that. Like you have a budget, here you go. Then we mark out that time, right?
Mhm.
Now we're into it. And now again, we're talking about make sure that like, okay, Susie had hers for 30 minutes, but you missed it. Make sure you're rescheduling it for another shift right away to make sure she's hitting it. And then obviously there's compliance reporting that comes along, like 50% of your team is completed. Like, is that what you scheduled so far? Like make sure so there's this constant communication, talk, focus, etc. And then obviously it ends and whatever, you get results and that's a whole other thing. But they really want that to happen. That's really important to them. And they make time, effort, budgets, and the timeline is realistic because no one gives you an employee survey last minute and says, everyone must take this, go now.
Right.
And so when corporate really does think something's important, you're given enough time and resources to complete it. And when it's just like, okay, we just got to get this done and like find a way here, let's like throw it at the thing. But like most things, again, marketing promos, those I understand when they're last minute because it's like, okay, we're trying to make a goal. But then it's like, if you gave me last week something like a training that was due, maybe that needs a new due date now. Like we need to reflectively go back and be like, what else is on the due date calendar coming up? And is that something we can flex?
Well, I want to go back to that question about a store calendar because I think you said every store has a store calendar and corporate could see it. I've never, yeah, go ahead.
Well, so I don't mean like a physical calendar. I just thought
Yeah.
we were talking. There's no real calendar. Let me back up. Let back up.
There's a
Um,
mental tacit calendar.
I guess I just meant like I guess I'm making an assumption actually that corporate does know what's happening in the store. Because to me, the thing about, okay, so this is like one of my retail pet peeve rants. I have it about a lot of things in life, but relevant to retail, it's the same. One of my pet peeves in life, we'll just go on a side track here, is when people get upset or react a certain way to something that's completely knowable and predictable. And I'll give you an example in life and then in retail. In life, in someone who lives in New England, the weather is crazy here. We get like desert heat, we get like tundra snow. It's insane. And yet people who've lived in Boston for their whole, say, 45-year-old life will be like, oh my God, can you believe how humid it is? Can you believe how snowy it is? You know what? Actually, I can because I've lived here for 38 years and it's completely predictable. Retail, and the reason I'm telling you that story is because retail leaders do the same thing, like corporate. It's like the patterns of retail are entirely predictable. So Mary coming in and distracting me for an hour, not predictable. But what is predictable is like the general patterns of our business. You know, Christmas happens every year, same day. Like it's not a surprise. We don't get to December 22nd and we're like, whoa, why are we so busy? This is crazy. Um, and so for me, I guess when you say, is there a calendar? I'm thinking, well, there's a pattern to business that's been the way. So that right there should be knowable, understood. We shouldn't even have to talk about it. We shouldn't be surprised by it, although sometimes people are. Um, and so that to me is the calendar. But when, an actual calendar, no. I mean, I'm thinking right now about my email and all the calendar taps in it for different due dates and things. And it's like, well, my boss has that and her boss has that. But is like a corporate learning team aware of all of those due dates? No, probably not. They have their own agenda and their own things they want to get done. And I think again, I do think that there's this assumption that like, I mean, it's in the job ads for retail leaders, right? Must deal with ambiguity, like must be able to pivot. It's sort of just expected that this is the chaos that we're expected to manage. And quite frankly, who cares if we're throwing a new thing at you?
Yeah. So, do you use software for, let's say you personally in your store, do you have like a Microsoft calendar or a Google calendar or something like that that you map your meetings and things like that on?
Yeah, I use Outlook most times, and most
Outlook.
companies
Okay.
use Outlook. Yeah.
Okay. Um, do you have access to a shared calendar? Does your district have a calendar?
Oh, no, no,
Okay.
no, and no to all of those things.
Just before I go any farther.
Yeah, yeah. But I guess why I'm saying
Mm.
again, I'm making a lot of assumptions. I'm giving a lot of grace that's probably undeserved. But
I love
some
that for you.
companies, some companies have their own like portal that has like due dates in it,
Yeah.
and so for me, it's like, well, you see all those due dates,
Mhm.
so you do kind of have like some companies do have a sense of like what's due and when and how and where.
Right.
I just, and this goes back to a conversation we've had many times on this podcast and off of it, which is part of the problem is that there's all the different teams have their own goals and like they think their goals are the most important.
Yep.
Marketing, sales, HR, etc. And the stores are just the sort of like dumping ground for those goals and initiatives to get launched. And there's not really anyone in the corporate structure outside of maybe a DM, maybe a regional if they're a good regional, who's like taking all of this and amalgamating it and being like, okay, what's actually on everyone's plate? And then arguing for different timelines or better execution. I think some leaders do that, but there's no person whose job it is. Honestly, this should be someone's job to like take it all in. Like, I wish in retail, this is like a crazy idea, but I wish that someone's job was to literally take all of the initiatives in, all of the due dates, the deadlines, etc., and then prioritize it and dole it out to stores in a way that made sense for the business and for stores. And I think, honestly, a lot of companies just expect retail managers to do that, because one of the things that really infuriated me at Old Navy was, and I've spoken so much love about that company on this podcast, so I feel like I can throw a little bit of hate their way, which is at one point I was doing really well in every way that mattered on paper. And I would get these visits and they'd be like, how are you making this happen? Like, your turnover is like crazy low. We were like top 5 in the territory sales, so like over 300 stores, and for like months running. Like, it wasn't like a blip, it was like for a while. And I was like, honestly, I just throw away everything that's irrelevant. I just don't do it. Or I delay it, and I miss deadlines, and I just have to be okay with it, because it's either that or my business suffers. And I've just made the choice that, like, if you come here and you see how great we're doing, you'll let me get away with missing deadlines. Or you'll be like, let's just have a conversation about maybe how we can get them done. And you'll forgo that. And I would rather deal with the heat of missing a deadline that's like not business critical than the heat that comes with not managing my business in a way that makes me fiscally exceptional. So, and then they'd be like, well, because Old Navy was great in this way. This is where double-edged sword. They'd be like, well, that's great. You're doing like what a leader should do, like prioritizing. And I go, but not everyone feels like they have the autonomy and the power to make that choice. Because when I tell my peers what I'm doing, I get weird excuses like, oh, well, they just like you, or, oh, like, you can just do that because you just don't give a shit. Because that's like sometimes people's perception of me, as if I just don't care if I get in trouble, which is honestly not the truth. It's just that there are certain things I'm willing to get in trouble for and other things that I don't. Like, I don't want you to come to my store and be like, hey, why is comp down 10%? Because the thing is that's hard, because then they dig into everything, right? Now we're digging into staffing and schedules and merchandise and inventory and customer service and credit cards. And there could be so many reasons you're not performing sales. But if I can just achieve sales, whatever else I can't do, you'll just let go, or just give me grace. And not every leader sees it like that, because they are so indoctrinated into this, like, all of the tasks are here, do all of the tasks. And they want the little pat on the head but I did all the things on time. But the reason that made me infuriated, to get back to it, is you could just give us a realistic workload and then you wouldn't have to go find out why I'm exceptional. Everyone could just be exceptional because their workload wasn't bullshit. When I train, whether it be like my assistant manager or someone who wants to move up, I always tell them the most important skill in retail, number one, it matters more than anything in my opinion, is the ability to filter out all the crap you get and figure out what actually matters in that moment, in that week, in that day. It is the most critical skill. If you can figure that out, Any other skill that you need, you can learn and adapt and grow to build and get great at. But if you don't have that, you're going to be at the whim of all of these inputs because the company is going to have priorities. Your employees are going to have priorities, right? Like they're going to need time off or they're going to want certain trainings from you or whatever the case may be. And then also customers have priorities, right? Mary wants to talk for an hour and 15 minutes. So if you don't figure out a way to filter all of those things, and then when Mary takes an hour and 15 minutes of your time, readapt to now what's most important because something's got to go, you'll either burn out because you'll be trying to do it all and it's not possible. Most companies don't give realistic workloads. So if your goal, and I tell this to everyone I train, if your idea of a successful day in retail is one in which you get everything done, you are going to have a crazy amount of bad days and maybe 2 good days a year. So you need to change how you view what does good look like for you? What amount of work will you be happy with if you get that done? And you need to be able to pivot and not beat yourself up because you don't finish everything, because you won't. You won't finish everything. And take it from someone who's tried to be the hero and finish all of the things and make the team happy and the customers happy. Like the only person who suffers is the manager. So you have to filter it out and you have to be okay with either defending your decisions or there are many times, especially when I first take over a store, like day one, especially if the store is in like disarray and needs love, I just have to, in my head, think to myself, for the next 3 to 6 months, I have to make the people above me think maybe they made the wrong choice because I'm not getting certain things done, so that in the long term, I can show them that my priorities were the correct ones. But I have to endure it because if I just react to everything they say is the priority, I can't actually fix this store because they're not here with me. They're not on the ground. They don't know. So yeah, I wish there was a corporate role. I think it should exist. I don't want to do it. Yeah, so you have to become your own version of that in order to make these corporate initiatives and timelines work.
Yeah. I want to come back to the idea of someone who organizes and facilitates the launches of things that go from corporate to store. Before I do though, you just used they a whole bunch of times and you have to be okay with them being mad or them being disappointed or they are going to think they hired the wrong person. Who's they?
Ooh, the omnipotent they. I think, in that scenario, it's really DMing up anyone above the store level, because I think different people could be disappointed in things depending on what the initiative is. Because also DMs don't want to look bad. And DMs fall into the same trap, in my opinion, of trying to get their teams to do all of the things at all of the times so that they can also look good to their leaders. But when I'm saying they, I often just mean anyone who's not working full-time in a store.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Back to the calendar idea and what you just said about having someone to organize those things. I've seen some semblance of that happen in corporate, but it's really high level and it's more to do about distribution than it is anything actually happening in your reality. So for example, the only thing I've actually seen on that calendar that has to do with the store reality is like Christmas. Like we don't do stuff in December. That's it. Like that's the blackout. Don't launch in December.
And that's
Beyond that, I've never seen like inventory or, depending on your, oh, sorry, what was,
No, I was
now I
just going to
can't,
say,
oh,
we're not doing things in December because of Christmas. Let's be so for real. Let's be honest right here, right now. We are not doing things in December because it's Christmas. We are not doing things in December because half of corporate is on PTO when retail leaders can't take time off because of blackout dates. That's why we're not doing anything. So let's be so clear about why things aren't happening in December. It's not because anyone's like, oh, well, we don't want to add to your to-do list. It's because you're in Maui.
Fair point. Heard. So
I just
the
had to
narrative
say
I,
that.
the narrative I always got was like, we know they're so busy with holidays, we don't want to pile
Uh-huh.
on more, but fair point.
Sure.
But yeah, there's nothing else on that calendar that has specific thing. I've never seen like an inventory week. I've never seen anything about like a sales promo or a floor reset or anything like that. It's the rest of the planning around December just looks like, oh, there's 10 things on this month and 4 things on this month. Let's move some over to this one. Let's just try to evenly distribute.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there is the very generous assumption you made of I just assume corporate knows, the very reoccurring cadence of stuff that happens in retail at least. I'm not sure that's the case in a lot of companies.
No, probably not. I mean, I think I've said versions of this in like little comments on LinkedIn, but there's a company that Old Navy used, and I'm sure they love the free promotion, giving it to you again here on the pod. But Old Navy used Zipline, which is this company that kind of like tries to do that condensing and consolidating of information. Old Navy used it pretty well. They may use it better now. I have no idea. But I'm a big fan of that because Zipline is the person I'm talking about. I mean, it's a digital version of the person because
Right.
everyone can see the entire calendar and sales promos are on it, by the way. And they're literally like visually, like if it's from Friday to Tuesday, it'll be like Friday to Tuesday is green. And obviously what that means is you have to put up signs on Friday, take them down Wednesday morning. And then maybe that overlaps with a purple bar that's like, inventory. And so you can actually see all the colored, like you can visually see, holy crap, Tuesday through Friday is crazy. So like probably not the day to launch anything.
Right.
I love Zipline. My only critique, and it's not of Zipline, it's of companies that use things like Zipline, because there are other versions of like intranets where people have made their own version of these things. I love it. I think you should use it. And I think every task that stores should have to do should have to go through that platform, which means I should actually never get an email about a task unless it's in that platform. Because otherwise, why the hell are you paying what I assume Zipline is making millions of dollars off of Old Navy? It's like, why are you paying millions of dollars to then usurp it because you think something else is more important? And I'm fine with an email that tells you about a Zipline task, like, hey, just so you know, this task is coming up. You probably didn't see it because we're adding it last minute. We just wanted to explain why. That's fine, but it better also be in Zipline in a color block so that you can see how ridiculous you're being. Because then when people say, hey, we have a lot on our plate, it's like there's this visual thing you can show people and be like, this is what we're faced with, or this is what we're doing. But I think companies, this is the real rub here. A lot of corporate teams are not disciplined enough to wait for their thing to be right to launch. So I don't even think they want a Zipline type thing, because that will mean their priority might need to get tabled or pushed or stretched. And if we all just pretend that there aren't a bunch of things going on, we can just live in fantasy land where everything can get done and everything is a priority. And, the Marys of the world aren't coming in, and we can all just, live in delusion.
It's so interesting because I agree. Corporate departments get really excited about their initiatives,
Mm-hmm.
and they've likely been working on it for, if not a year, years.
Yeah.
Right. And so to them, they have waited. They've cut all the red tape. They've done all the socializing, got all the thumbs up, made all the iterations, incorporated all the feedback. And then finally they're just like, we need to like go push it out. What I think is really interesting to connect two stories you just told. If it's so important, like if your program is so powerful, so important, so needed, would it be worth waiting, knowing what you said about timing, right? Because you said that actually 80% of them might have merit if they actually were reasonable time-wise.
Mm-hmm.
You also said later that one of the most critical skills in retail is learning how to filter out all the crap.
Mm-hmm.
So if the timing isn't right, you're going to be filtered out as crap.
Yeah. I think that's the message. That is the message of this episode. Well, and the other thing that I wanted to mention about timing is there's often things that compete with each other. And the best example, the most simple example I can give you is schedules. Most companies, because of either legal compliance or just because they actually care about employees and want them to be able to schedule their lives, have a rule about how far in advance the schedule has to be published. Some companies I've worked at, it's been a month, some it's 2 weeks, some it's 3 weeks. Let's just say it's 3 weeks. Let's just split the baby. So it's 3 weeks out. To me, what that says is I shouldn't get anything in my inbox at all, ever, that requires a different level of employees that's less than 3 weeks out. Because you know I have to publish the schedule 3 weeks out. So why are you, and every company does this, by the way, every single one. There's not a single one I've worked for at all that does not fail in this regard and fail miserably. Because if you're going to throw a promo, even if you're going to tell me, oh my God, and we're adding 20 hours of payroll to next week, cool. What if I can't fill it? What if my employees are busy? What if I have people on vacation? Your extra payroll, and you don't let me let that payroll roll over because it's specifically for this thing. So it's like, you're not doing me a favor. You're doing that to make yourself feel better, maybe. But yet nothing should be launched through email or Zipline or anything that requires a different or rearranging of staffing that is different from the scheduling compliance that you know we have to follow. And the fact that it often is, I'm like, so which is it? Is the initiative more important? Or like, you just legally know that we have to schedule 3 weeks out, so you're just making me hit publish, but I still have to change it. So it's like, not like we care about our employees and whether they like are happy with their schedule. And the thing about me is I'm not changing the schedule most of the time. Like I gave my employees that schedule and I used to change it a lot, like not without permission. I would always beg and ask and borrow and steal and bribe to get people to change it. But I've reached a point in my life where I'm like, no, it's not. There is no retail emergency that requires everyone move their life, their dinner plans, their family plans around. So what? We can put up new signs that have a gold trim instead of a silver trim because you decided visually that looks better. And the due date is this because the president of marketing is touring stores. Get out of here.
Damn. It's just such a good example. Like that's, because I think that is becoming more and more of a priority now. This, there was that, I don't know if we talked about it, but the Good Jobs report put out by, I'll have to look up, share it, but it was widely circulated in corporate retailers, and they talked about, decent pay and advanced schedules being part of an easy way to make retail a far better job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of companies took action or think they've took action to make that happen, to make schedules more predictable so that people can plan their lives around them. But they're probably not seeing that connection.
No, they're not. And they do it to even store managers, like adding a conference call when I've already made the schedule. And now the conference call requires me to leave less people on the floor, or maybe that was people's lunchtime. So now I'm like, well, you can't go to lunch because I got to take this call. Or then there's some store managers that can't make the call. And then they're like, okay, well, I guess Steven didn't think that this call was a priority. And it's like, no, Steven is just having good, healthy boundaries, which there's nothing retail leaders in corporate hate more than a manager with healthy boundaries. Like, nothing they hate more. This is a whole other topic. I could talk about this for honestly a whole episode, but like having a regulated nervous system and healthy boundaries is like, it will make you a bad manager sometimes. It just will. And I think, for me, it's like I've reached the point where it's like, well, I guess in those ways I'm willing to be a bad manager now because I'm not going to rearrange my whole life and my plans for gold trim signage or for some vanity project that someone wants to see and is going to make them happy. Like, get a hobby, go find a spouse, like get a dog, do whatever you got to do to be happy. But if it's making 1,000 employees put up gold trim signage because you just discovered Canvas for the first time, I got better things to do.
Oh man. And it needs to be said, I think there's a difference between, I know you're using bad manager in the perception of they.
Yeah. That's one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Certainly there's a difference between being a good manager and a good little soldier. And I would actually say that those are on opposite spectrums, at least sustainably.
No, for sure.
Okay. So considering all that we've unpacked, what can be done? And maybe you have a story of when this happened or a company that tended to do this well. But given that we know, retail can be very unpredictable, very predictable in some ways, very unpredictable in others. What kind of advice can we offer so that, corporate listeners aren't just like, well, clearly it's so unpredictable, so there's just no way. So we just kind of have to put it out and hope you can do it.
I think more, one of the best things is just more lead time into things. And I think that what gets lost a lot of times is people, the paradox is that I think sometimes they are aware of how much is on the plate and then don't tell us about the next thing because they're like, well, we'll wait till all these things are done and then we'll tell them the next thing. Tell me the thing when you know there's a thing, is what I want to say. Don't worry about overwhelming me because I now have 6 things when you have a secret 7th and you're like, well, okay, so all of those things end Saturday, so we'll launch the new thing Monday, but we won't tell them till Monday because we don't want to overwhelm them. No, that is overwhelming. Because again, the employee survey oftentimes is right after a busy season, but in the middle of a slow season. But you always tell us in the middle of the busy season, just so you know this is coming up. Like, you prep us. It doesn't need to be a big deal. I don't need a whole, PowerPoint on it. But you just tell us, hey, this thing is coming. It's the same with one of the best launches I've ever seen in my career was when Old Navy launched Buy Online, Pickup in Store. Because it was such a change in how we do business. It was so well thought out because before the launch date, we probably had, 8, 12 weeks. I can't even remember the lead time. It was long. It was actually so long that I was like, no, I think we could have sped this up. But it allowed us, because basically the first thing, and they broke it down into these like very manageable tasks. So the first thing they were like is like, okay, what does your cash wrap look like? Because you're going to need to put the orders behind the register. So like, is that all storage right now? What's there? Receipt tape, so basically the first task was like, clean out cabinets, put other stuff somewhere else. Then it was like the second task. And this, by the way, we had a week or 2 to do each task. And then the next task was like, okay, now make sure you have enough space, like based on each store's volume, this is how many orders we anticipate you'll get per time frame. Make sure you have this many shelves for this volume. Now label them, A through Z for the last names. Okay, now we need all the employees to take like the BOPIS training module in the Learning Hub. now you have like 2 or 3 weeks for that. Then they had like fake orders come through so that you could practice scanning, like in the learning module, practice scanning the clothes and scanning the receipt and making sure it actually printed on the zebra printers that printed out the sticker that went on the bag. And then they sent special BOPIS bags, and then they told you they were coming and like to find a place to store them. And this might all sound really boring and lame, but I can't tell you the amount of times you get mailed things as a retailer with no explanation what the hell's in that box. And then, God forbid, this is a pet peeve of mine as well, God forbid you lose something in that box. And they're like, how did you lose the sign? Well, we sent it. We have the receipt. Why did you send me a sign on July 7th for something that launched October 10th, but you didn't tell me about it till September 1st? So I had the sign for 7 weeks without knowing what the sign was. And I'm not saying that means I should have thrown it away, but it's like definitely doesn't make me prioritize finding the sign. Like no wonder I lost it. So, but that BOPIS launch of like giving us all of those tasks, setting it all up, it's like that made everything manageable. It almost didn't matter what was happening. And to be honest, I don't remember what time of year it launched. I don't remember if it was slow or busy because everything was broken down so manageably that it's like, and at that point, and this is my other point to corporate. This is my ask of you all. The thing is when you break something down that manageable and that, quite frankly, for the least skilled among us, what you also do is you create an environment where you actually can hold people to an incredibly high standard of execution without excuse. Because when BOPIS launched, there were a couple of stores that fumbled the bag in terms of like an order got taken because they didn't store it in the right cabinet or the inventory was up, whatever the case may be. And it's like, and then you can go to that store and you can basically be like, there is no excuse. But the thing right now is in retail, we got lots of excuses we can make for accountability. Oh, I didn't see that email. Oh, all of these other things were going on. And then it becomes really difficult for you as DMs, as RMs, as VPs to be like, is this store manager incompetent? Or like, oh yeah, I guess retail's crazy. And actually, I've seen a lot of bad managers hide within that system of like all the crazy and hiding beneath it. They're just bad. They're not good at prioritizing. They're not good at executing tasks. And they're able to hide within corporate's crazy task delegation. But if you lay out everything so it's sort of like really on this realistic timeline, when someone doesn't do it, not that I can give anyone permission to do anything, but to me gives people permission to be like, you as a store manager are not rising to the level of a leader that we expect in this business. And now you're getting written up. And let me just tell you, store managers getting written up, rare. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be rare because I think it should, but when it comes to like mismanaging a store, I think it's really easy as a store manager to like hide under all of these things.
Yeah. Can I ask, the BOPIS launch, did you get a big picture up front or was all this okay?
Big picture up front with the weekly cascade of tasks. So you could jump ahead if you wanted to jump ahead.
Yeah.
So, which I did because there was a day we were like super slow. I remember it happening. And basically my whole team was like, what are we doing? And I'm like, we're emptying out cabinets and labeling cabinets. And, you know, you always have someone on your team who like is like, I don't know, their like whole world revolves around using a label maker because that sparks joy in their soul. So it's like we did that. We did a lot of the tasks in like a 2-day period and we're ahead of schedule because we had time, but also because, to your point, we had the big picture.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a perfect example. Oh, by the way, those posters that came in June that you didn't need till September, I can almost guarantee you what happened is it was going to launch sooner, and then someone in corporate got eyes on it and put a stop to it, and it got delayed by like a quarter. And that's why you had to sit on them for so long. But yeah, I've seen that happen. What I'm hearing is more lead time, some lead time enough to both be flexible to consider your unpredictable day-to-day storyalities, but also respect your policies, especially in terms of scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to remind corporate leaders that if it's important, the right time is more important than the soonest time.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Is when yeah. Otherwise, you're going to get filtered out, and all of that work that you did, which is legit, like real, real work, that could have made a difference. Timing is a huge part.
I also think a little bit more flexibility for things that are not customer critical. So obviously like signage and all of that stuff, customer critical, right? Like you can't walk into one store and go 40 minutes away and another store and they look different or they have different prices. Like obviously that doesn't make sense. But when it comes to trainings or learnings or whatever the case may be, I do think that maybe there should be a hard deadline somewhere that's maybe not shared with stores, that's like really far out, where DMs actually get to determine each store's deadline in partnership with that manager. Because I've been in situations where I'm like overhauling a store and the last thing on my mind is like some training module. Or maybe there's a store where like, there's just a big difference in if I'm running a store and I have a lot of tenure in my staff and like everyone's been in role for a long time versus I'm running a store and everyone's like newly promoted or new in role. Your ability to tackle certain things is really different in those two scenarios. And having a little bit flexibility in timeline would really go a long way in ensuring also that you're not just checking a box, right? Because you also don't want to spend all that time in corporate coming up with an initiative for us to, maybe we don't filter it out. Maybe we do it, but we're just checking the box. And we're like, hey, did everyone see that we're doing this new thing with like recycling? And yeah, just put it in the blue thing instead of the green thing. And hopefully that will save the planet. Okay, back to the denim wall. You don't want that to happen. But technically, if you came into my store and polled my staff and were like, hey, did you hear about the new sustainability initiative? Everyone would be like, yeah, green bin instead of the blue bin. And yeah, we got it. And then you're going to be like, great, you went over it with your team. But really, like, we're all lying to you. We're BSing you because we just treated it as like just another box to check. And if you want us to take the thing seriously, then I think like a sustainable initiative is actually the perfect example, right? Because not to say it's not important, it's super important. I am a big believer in sustainability and that companies could do more and should do more. But that's not something that needs to be hard launched in every store on the same day. It's just not. So like, what is the situation on the ground in all of these stores? Because what you want is you want a team to receive that and be like super excited, passionate. And if that store's falling apart because there's high turnover or they've just lost their store manager, now they have a new guy and they don't even know if they like the new guy yet. That new guy tries to launch a sustainability initiative. They're like, here we go, another corporate ass kisser taking over. Everything about how that initiative gets implemented is now sullied because it launched at the wrong time. Whereas if the person in charge at a regional or district level were to look down and go, okay, this store, they're going to love this. We're going to launch it. Then you go into the other store with that new manager and you're like, so where are we at? Do we think if we launch this now, people are receptive, or should we like hold back till we reached some sort of stasis, find the key players who love sustainability and then launch? That changes the whole game, honestly. And now what you see is, slower rollout. It's not as, we can't like, have a green party where we celebrate and, then use a lot of plastic plates that are bad for the environment, totally overthrowing our initiative. But what you do get is in like now in a year, you as the VP or the regional or maybe the head person who like did the sustainability thing get to walk into every business and go, wow, the adoption rate and the passion is insane in every location. People love this. They're bought into it. And all because you were flexible with timing and weren't a stickler that it all had to, that green bin has to be used starting July 7th, and you're not bugging every store. Are you using the green bin? Send us pictures of the full green bin so we can see that you're recycling and you're buying into this. And you're laughing, but that's a thing people would do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like what you want is you want that green bin to be full because the team is like all about it. And the difference of 3 weeks of a launch date could be the thing that makes that happen. And the planet's not dying any faster because of that 3 weeks, I promise you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that's
it. That's
it.
Yeah. Brilliantly said. I think that's a perfect place to leave it. Any other final thoughts?
No, that was the final thought.
It was a good one. Thanks as always, Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
You're listening to Dear Corporate, Love Stores.